The typical candidate stepping into a chief executive role arrives with an average of 24 years of success. They have mastered specific business functions, survived rigorous vetting, and climbed to the peak of their corporate hierarchy. This experience frequently fails to translate. Data reveals that 83% of incoming CEOs feel unprepared for the role, and between a third and a half of them will fail within their first 18 months. These failures carry massive financial stakes. Forced CEO turnover costs global shareholders an estimated $112 billion in market value every year. We see this play out in high-stakes environments. Bob Chapek brought decades of operational success to Disney, yet he lasted only 9 months as CEO before the board removed him. Chris Licht arrived at CNN as a veteran media executive, yet he survived only 15 months before internal political friction ended his tenure. The leadership pipeline is failing. This raises a difficult question. Why are the smartest, most vetted professionals in business so often unqualified for the job they spent their lives pursuing? These failures rarely stem from a lack of charisma or elite education. Only 7% of high-performing CEOs have Ivy League degrees, and boards actually prefer candidates who have survived a major career blow-up. The collapse happens because the CEO role is a different ladder entirely. It demands a rewiring of the leader's professional identity, moving from solving functional problems to enabling an entire enterprise. This transition places a leader in a liminal state. Their old role as a CFO or engineer is gone, but the new identity as CEO hasn't formed yet. They are stuck in a chaotic, undefined middle ground. Many leaders react to this pressure by falling into identity foreclosure. Instead of evolving, they panic and cling to their previous expertise, acting as a high-level functional manager rather than a CEO. Stepping into the CEO chair is a psychological disruption. If a leader fails to reconstruct their identity during this window, the organization's culture will eventually reject them. Identity foreclosure persists because many executives lack the internal feedback loops to realize their existing skills have become liabilities. This deficit in self-awareness prevents them from seeing the mismatch between who they are and what the role now requires. Tasha Eurich's research highlights the scale of this blind spot. 95% of people believe they are self-aware, but only 10 to 15% actually meet the criteria. This gap widens as an executive climbs higher. The more power a leader holds, the less honest feedback they receive from those around them, creating a vacuum where their self-perception goes unchallenged. In this vacuum, the traits that once drove success, ambition, and focus can become compulsions. The leader begins misreading the company culture and alienating their team because no one is providing the necessary pushback. Ben Horowitz noted the psychological toll of this isolation, observing that the first rule of the CEO's psychological meltdown is that no one is allowed to talk about it. The high failure rate isn't a matter of business incompetence. It is the result of an isolated ego operating without a functioning internal radar. Navigating this transition requires a structural approach to the mind. Advisor Barbara Wilby advocates for the self-governed leader, someone whose effectiveness is rooted in deep self-knowledge. This is central to James Scoular's model. He argues that a leader's ability to manage a public enterprise or a private team depends entirely on their personal leadership, the inner core of self-mastery and emotional intelligence. Successful candidates prioritize this psychological work over the standard 100-day business plan. They recognize that their external performance is a direct reflection of their internal self-governance. Organizations typically spend decades developing an executive's functional skills, but invest almost nothing in preparing their psychology for the top role. A chief executive's survival depends on mastering the internal mechanics of their psychology. Managing a multi-billion-dollar business is a byproduct of mastering oneself.